Hello, in this video, I'm going to take you through a simple diagram that shows the path of blood flow through the heart. So yes, the heart is in 3 dimensions. It's oddly shaped, difficult to draw. So this is a very simplified diagram to help you. So if you're taking a test or in some other situation where you need to remember, you can quickly jot this down and it will help you get all of the right answers. So we're going to start by identifying the 4 chambers of the heart. So the 2 superior chambers, the ones on top, are the 2 atria. So a left atrium, singular, right atrium, and plural would be atria. So they get the name atrium as an entryway. So those are the chambers of the heart where the blood enters into the heart. The 2 chambers on the bottom, the inferior chambers, are the 2 ventricles, left and right. Now, I want to remind you that anatomically speaking, left and right is based on the left and right of the person. So from the observer perspective, if we're looking at someone's heart, the left would actually be on this side, the observer's right. If we're facing the person, our right would be their left. So that's the left atrium and ventricle, and then the right atrium and ventricle. So I'm going to put a little text box here. This is the right atrium. And then this is the left atrium. And the right ventricle and the left ventricle. I'm going to move that over. All right, so we've identified the chambers. Now for our simple diagram, I put the lungs over here and the body over here just to represent when we have blood that's going out to the body to supply all the different tissues and blood coming back from the body to be recirculated by the heart, or over here where we have blood going from the heart to become oxygenated by the lungs and then returning back to the heart again. So again, things are spatially not in this location, but this is a simple diagram to help you. So now we're going to start with deoxygenated blood coming from all of the tissues of the body. They're going to enter into the heart, into the right atrium. So remember, blood is coming from either the body or the lungs and entering into the 2 atria being the plural of atrium. So that's where we're receiving blood. So the deoxygenated blood goes from the body into the right atrium. So now I'm going to add the names of those vessels. So the deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium through the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinus. So the superior vena cava is carrying the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body, and the head and neck. The inferior vena cava is bringing the deoxygenated blood from everything below heart level. And the coronary sinus is bringing the deoxygenated blood that was supplying the tissue of the heart itself. And that's coming back into the right atrium. And let's just make that blue, just to make it simple. Okay, so now we have deoxygenated blood that's in the right atrium. And now that blood is going to travel down from the right atrium into the right ventricle. When it does that, it's going to travel through the tricuspid valve. Tricuspid meaning 3 cusps or 3 little flaps. So it actually looks sort of like a little Mercedes symbol, like this. Okay, so let's add the name here. That is the tricuspid valve. We'll make that purple. Okay, so now we have deoxygenated blood that is down in the right ventricle. So the ventricles have denser, thicker muscle because they need to contract with a greater amount of force to eject the blood either from the right ventricle out to the lungs or from the left ventricle out to the body. So let's draw our line here. It's going to be blue. It's deoxygenated blood going from the right ventricle to the lungs to oxygenate that blood. When it does that, it's going to pass through another valve. That is the pulmonary valve. And again, it looks like a little Mercedes symbol, the little 3 flaps. So we'll add the name here as the pulmonary valve. So it's called the pulmonary valve because, here, let me move that over, because the blood is going from the right ventricle into the pulmonary trunk. That is the name of this large vessel that is exiting the heart. So we're going to add a name there as the pulmonary trunk. And the pulmonary trunk branches off into the pulmonary arteries. So the pulmonary trunk is a big vessel that leaves the right ventricle, and then it branches off to the left and right into pulmonary arteries to go to the lungs on the left and the right. Okay, so pulmonary arteries. So always remember that arteries are going away from the heart. Veins are coming back towards the heart. It has nothing to do with whether the blood is oxygenated or deoxygenated, because here is an example where we have arteries that are carrying deoxygenated blood because it's in pulmonary circulation. So the loop of blood flow between the heart and going to the lungs to get oxygenated and back again, that's your pulmonary circulation. The loop of blood where we're sending oxygenated blood to all the tissues of the body and then deoxygenated is coming back, that's your systemic circulation. Okay, so we're going to make this blue because that's the name of those vessels. Okay, so the pulmonary trunk, then the pulmonary arteries. Here, let's go back to drawing. So we have our pulmonary arteries, they're going out to our lungs. Now the blood has become oxygenated in the lungs. So now we're going to make it red. And that oxygenated blood is returning back and coming to the left atrium. So now we have oxygenated blood in the left atrium. Then that oxygenated blood is going to travel down to the left ventricle, and it's going to pass through, let me get my purple. That is going through the bicuspid valve, also called the mitral valve. So bicuspid as in 2 cusps. So this is the only valve that doesn't look like a little Mercedes symbol. It only has 2 cusps like that. So let's add our name here. Bicuspid valve, also called the mitral valve. We'll make that purple. Okay, so now we have our, hold on. Now we have our oxygenated blood in the left ventricle. So now the left ventricle has to contract with a significant amount of force to overcome the pressure that's in the vessel that it's pumping into. So now we're pumping into the aorta. That's our large vessel that is going to branch off many times. And send out all of our oxygenated blood through all of our whole, everything in the body. Well, everything that receives blood flow in the body, I should say. So we start with the aorta, very large vessel, and it branches off into smaller and smaller arteries and arterioles and eventually capillaries. We have exchange of blood flow in the capillaries throughout the body, and then those capillaries rejoin and become venules and then veins and return back to the heart with that deoxygenated blood. Okay, so again, we pass through another valve. So we're going to change to purple. So this is another one that looks like a little Mercedes symbol. Remember, the mitral valve, the bicuspid valve, is the only one that has only 2 flaps. All the others have 3. So we're going to put our name here. That is the aortic valve because it is the valve that is leading into the aorta. And then we're going to add another box here. That is the aorta. And again, that branches off many times. So the vessels get smaller and smaller and smaller and travel throughout the entire body. So then we have the exchange of oxygenated blood. The cells are extracting all that oxygen, leaving their waste behind, sending that back through the blood. And then we have our deoxygenated blood from the body that returns back to the right atrium via the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and coronary sinus. And there we start all over again. All right, so that is the entire pathway of blood flow through the heart, including our pulmonary and systemic circulation. And I made this very simple. Hopefully you can practice this a handful of times, and you can write it on the back of your test when you're taking it, so that it'll help you remember your valves, your vessels, and your chambers of the heart. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.